Hello everyone. In this session you're going to learn about the structures for the comparisons. First of all, let me tell you that there are three types of comparisons: positive degree, comparative degree, and superlative degree. The positive degree is what we call in Spanish comparativo de igualdad. Comparative degree is comparativo de superioridad. And the superlative degree is el grado superlativo in Spanish, of course. There are some special rules for these structures. Let's see first the positive degree. When we use the positive degree, we have to take into account, first of all, the adjective or adverb that we're going to compare. And we're going to use the words as. Here it is very important for you to keep in mind that the first as means than, and the second as means como. And this is something that is very easy, because here you're going to use the positive degree with adjectives or adverbs of one, two, or more syllables. That is, there is no difference here. Whatever you want to compare, you use as, and the adjective or adverb, it doesn't matter if it is of one, two, or more syllables in general. But in the comparative degree, we have to separate the adjectives. In what way? The adjectives or adverbs of one syllable and the adjectives or adverbs of two or more syllables. The first rule is for the adjectives or adverbs of one syllable. Here, what you're going to do is that, first of all, you write the adjective or adverb that you want to use to compare and the ER ending. And finally, the word than. The ER means más, and the word than, que. So, in this case, whatever you want to compare, this is ER and than. But what happens when you have an adjective or an adverb of two or more syllables? Here, you're going to use the word more and the word than. In the middle, you're going to write the adjective or adverb that you want to compare. So, here, this is with adjectives or adverbs of two or more syllables. And finally, the superlative degree. In the superlative degree, you also have to take into account those adjectives or adverbs of one syllable. Here, you're going to use the article D, the adjective or adverb that you're going to compare, the est ending in the adjective or adverb, and the preposition of, although sometimes of is not used in all the sentences. When you have an adjective or an adverb of two or more syllables, then you have to use the article D, the word must, and the preposition of. This is only for those adjectives or adverbs of two or more syllables. Now, let's see some examples. In positive degree, when we use an adverb or an adjective of one syllable, as we say, we use as. In this case, Robert is as fast as Peter. And when we have adjectives or adverbs of two or more syllables in the positive degree, it is the same. Mary is as beautiful as Jane. Just take into account the number of syllables. Here, fast is only one syllable. Beautiful, how many syllables? Beautiful, 3 syllables. But in the positive degree, we don't take into account the number of syllables of the adjectives or adverbs. But let's see what happens in the comparative degree. When we have an adjective or an adverb of one syllable, we say that we have to use the ER ending and the word than. So we are using in this case, the adjective tall. Tall, one syllable. John is taller than Scott. Okay? And if we have an adjective or an adverb of two or more syllables, here in this case, the adjective intelligent. How many syllables? Intelligent. 4 syllables. Okay? So here we have to use the words more and the word than. Susan is more intelligent than Chris. Now, finally, here, in superlative degree, for those adjectives or adverbs of one syllable, we said that we're going to use the article the est ending, and the preposition of. In this case, John is the shortest of his group. We're talking about that John is the shortest student in the group in this case. Okay, he's not tall. He is the shortest of his group. And when we have an adjective or an adverb of 2 or more syllables in the superlative degree, here we have the adjective beautiful. How many syllables? Beautiful. 3 syllables. So, Miss Universe is the most beautiful woman of the world. Okay? These are some examples for the 3 forms of the comparisons. In the comparisons, we have to be careful when we use adjectives or adverbs which are irregular. Why? Let's see. When we have the positive degree, we have the adjective good. Here, in the positive degree, there's no problem, as good as. But when we change good to the comparative degree, we have to say better than, and the superlative degree is the best of. It is there is a typical mistake in the exams when students use the rules and they want to apply those rules here. Good, gooder than. That is a terrible mistake. So it is an irregular adjective and you have to be careful with that. So we have good, better, best. The adjective bad. Bad, worse than, the worst of. When we have the adjective ill, it is similar to bad. Here is as bad as, and here as ill as. Worse than and the worst of. The comparative and superlative form are the same. And pay attention here. Here we are going to use the adjective far. Far means distance, okay? So when we use the positive degree, we say as far as. The comparative degree, farther than, and the superlative degree, the farthest of. But when we use far with the meaning of extra, for example, extra information, yes, we use the adjective further. Okay? Now let's see some examples. Here we have some examples with irregular adjectives and adverbs. In the positive degree, we have Tom is as good, in English for example, as Jerry. Both of them as good, they are good. In the comparative degree, we have Betty is better than Helen. And the superlative degree, Jimmy is the best of all in his class. With the adjective bad, Diane is as bad, for example, in mathematics, as Joanne. Frank is worse in spelling, for example, than Joe. And Paul is the worst of his team. Using the adjective ill, we have Miss Brown is as ill as Miss Green. Mrs. Cooper is worse than her friend. But this patient is the worst of all in the hospital. Using the adjective far, Tlaxcala is as far as Cuernavaca. We are talking about distance. Guadalajara is farther than Querétaro. And Baja California is the farthest state of Mexico City. We are here in this case, we are applying the normal rules. But when we use far with the meaning of extra, as I told you before, then we have the example. For further information, turn to page 150. This is not distance. This means extra, in this case for extra information. Okay? Finally, let's see what happens with those adjectives or adverbs of 2 syllables ending in Y. In the positive degree, we have lilies are as pretty as carnations. Here, as always, we don't have any change. But in comparative degree, roses are prettier than daffodils. So we suppose that the adjective pretty has 2 syllables, but in this adjective we have the Y. So 2 adjectives of 2 syllables ending in Y, we apply the rule as if it were of 1 syllable. We change to Y to I and add ER. prettier than. And the superlative degree, orchids are the prettiest flowers, in this case, of all. Here again, we have pretty. Pretty, and we apply the first rule for those adjectives of one syllable, and we change the Y to I. The prettiest flowers of all. That is the superlative degree. Okay guys, that's all about the comparisons. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in another session. Goodbye.